Let's talk about baseball. I want to ask you this, dude. Last year, I felt like the Braves were the coolest team. Like, to me, at least, the Braves were really cool. They were like, man, this team has got it.
Vibes.
They have great vibes. We talk vibes here a lot. So the Angels, man, they seem like a really vibey team right now. They have two of the best players in the league. They had a guy throw a no-hitter the other night. Same division as the Astros. So when they beat the Astros, everybody cheers. They have a fucking rock formation outfield. With a waterfall. Are they the coolest team in baseball? Where do they rank this year as far as like that team has it? They're cool.
Yeah, if you're watching a team on a nightly basis, they're the one that you're going to go out and pick because they have the two best players in baseball. Mike Trout is back. He's healthy. Listen, no disrespect to Babe Ruth or to Barry Bonds or to Hank Aaron or Willie Mays or anybody else who played before. I believe Mike Trout is the best baseball player who's ever lived.
Wow.
I understand. I do. I think the competition is better than it's ever been. And he has been playing MVP, not like MVP conversation, MVP caliber baseball for a full consecutive decade now. And listen, I get that he's been injured. Last year especially was a rough year for him. Had a muscle injury that kept him out for the last 4 months, I think, of the season. But when he is on the field, there is nobody better than him. And staking that claim when you're on the same team as Shohei Otani, who's doing things that we haven't seen since Babe Ruth, since Double Duty Ratcliffe, and others in the Negro leagues. I mean, it's pretty amazing what he is capable of doing and what he's gone out there and done.
I also think it's really cool that Mike Trout comes to Eagles games and like sits like not in the suites. Mike Trout sits in like the seats, which I love. Yep. So big point in his favor there. And then also, I do think you make the Babe Ruth point. It looks like if you look at Mike Trout, he looks like he could have been born at any time and played baseball.
Yes.
He looks like he could have been, in a black and white picture in the Depression, and then he picked up a bat.
Chris, if you look at Mike Trout in person, he looks like he should be playing middle linebacker for the Eagles.
Right.
Like he's 6'2", 240. And, in his prime when he was at his fastest, and he's not far behind, it was probably running like a 4.5, maybe a 4.4. Like he is a freakish athlete who just happens to have picked baseball. And, it's pretty damn incredible to see him on a daily basis do what he does because he's great at just about everything.
What's the weak link for the Angels? Is it Danny Glover calling the shots from the dugout?
They have a movie too.
It's probably the unis.
It's the unis is what we were thinking. They need to go back. I was thinking the only uncool thing about the Angels is the LA Angels now. Is the uniforms, dude. And we went back and we looked at the 77 threads.
The 79 through like 92.
With the halos.
I got the halo on there.
That's my favorite one. I mean, shit, you could go back to the 90s ones. You could go back to, Angels in the outfield. You could go back to the navy blue sleeves. They'd be better than these. Do you agree? And are there uniforms, Jeff, that you think should go back?
The Angels uniform is inoffensive to me. Like it's not the worst now compared to what you've seen in the past. My number one far and away is the Houston Astros and their rainbow uniform. Like that's the one you got to go back to.
You got to go. We just said that's a no-brainer, dude.
Gorgeous uniform. Chicago White. I love the 80s Chicago White Sox.
Yes.
That just says socks right across the chest there. Like that's a good one. Angels, it would be fine. I think the most offensive thing about the Angels is that they call themselves the Los Angeles Angels.
That is offensive.
Like, dude, you're in Orange County. Just wear it. Just own it. Like Orange County's not Los Angeles. I'm sorry.
It's a weird place too. Like Orange County is a different area, dude, and so they should really lean into that. I would say I would go back to the Luis Gonzalez's with the Diamondbacks. I'm not a big fan of the Diamondbacks threads these days.
Yeah, it's pretty grimy. To answer the question before the uniforms, their starting pitching has been really good so far. You saw Reed Detmers, the rookie, go out and throw a no-hitter. Noah Syndergaard's been excellent. Patrick Sandoval, a young left-hander, is quite solid. And then there's Otani, who's been better as a pitcher, than a hitter this season. I mean, his stuff, he's throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs that have cut to him. His slider gets swings and misses, curveball, splitter. Like, he's got at least 4 plus 2 plus pitches, like above average to well above average to top of the line. Right. And so, like, in game 1, you can have Shohei Otani starting and be scared to death, and then have him turn around half an inning later and hit a tank 450 feet. And
no question.
The idea that we can say this, it still doesn't register as immensely as it should. The sort of talent that we're dealing here with Shohei Otani. He's just, the word unique gets thrown around so often. He is truly unique to this generation and the previous and the previous and the previous of baseball players. And what he's doing now, it's just impossible to replicate. Like, we're seeing a once in a lifetime player right now. And I just hope that every person out there, whether you are a fan of baseball or not, tunes in or goes to Angel Stadium at some point to say, I saw this guy who was unlike any other athlete in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's like it's the do the likelihood of you being a big leaguer and playing at that level as a hitter, and then do whatever math you need to do with the same thing for pitching. It's insane. Like, I don't know what the odds would be, but the odds of you being Shohei Otani, it's not happening. There's only one. Talk to me about Reed Detmers. Shout out to Cowboy Reed back here. We got a no-hitter. I think the Angels won like 12-0. I was going to ask you this. As a dummy, I feel like it's harder to throw a no-hitter when your team scores a bunch of runs. Is that true or false in your opinion? You haven't thought about this.
I haven't thought about it. Why? Just because the margin of error is so large that it's like, okay, if I give up a hit, we're still winning the game.
Well, there's that. There's a psychological thing. It's like in football, when you have to make a stop, you always make a stop, and then when you get into 2-minute mode and people are catching up, you kind of relax. But more than that, I wonder about like being a pitcher and having to sit in the dugout for 30 minutes when your team scores 7 runs in an inning. Like, isn't it a kind of a deal with momentum and kind of being in a rhythm? Do you have any opinion on that? Because I'm looking at that game and I'm like, I never wondered if it was harder to throw a no-hitter when you're kicking the shit out of the other team.
Yeah, and it was interesting because he came back out 1 inning after his third baseman, who is an elite right-handed hitter, Anthony Rendon, went up left-handed against Brett Phillips, an outfielder in pitcher for the Rays, throwing 50-mile-per-hour meatballs, and Rendon homers left-handed.
That's why. So take me through that, because Rendon, his first ever, and I'm like, why did he do it? Did he do it because he was just like fucking around? He was like,
yes, that's it. Yeah, in the middle of a no-hitter.
That's so disrespectful.
It was, and it was so beautiful. That game was great. Trout homers twice. Rendon goes yard lefty, and then Detmers throws a no-hitter in the 7th start of his career.
Coolest team in baseball right now. Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.